how do you get to play your best, and how do you overcome that feeling of that experience where you just played it fantastically in your practice room and you came out to play for your teacher, or your warm-up room and you came out on stage, and all of a sudden you went from being able to play 100% of your ability to 50%. Like, what happened, right, during that walk from the practice room to your teacher's place? And it really boils down to formalizing what you do in your practice room, and how that relates to an athlete. It's the same. And forgive me, I mentioned some of this last time, but any teammate of Michael Jordan or Kobe Bryant, or I'm trying to think of famous, or even football players who were the best. Basically, what they often have in common stories about them, they were not the nicest teammates, honestly. They practiced incredibly intensely, and they forced their teammates to practice at that intensity. And that intensity is the same as, in practice, is the same as for us, because we're on our own. No one's yelling at me. Come on, Amos, pay attention. Come on, you've got to up the intensity. But what does that for me is, I'm at my iPad, is pressing this record button, right? That's one of the things that intensifies and formalizes practice for me. The other thing is really keeping close track of my practicing, and whether difficult problem sections of the pieces are improving, so that my ratio of failures to successes is going the direction I want. And again, that includes recording, because the second I press record, I formalized it, because I'm going to watch it back. And it's that kind of thing that really is similar for me to athletics. But you have to be so passionate about it. And I'd be lying if I told you I was able to practice that intensely all the time. I can't, I don't do it every day, unless I have a big audition coming up. And so that's been one of the things that is always asked of me. How do you make sure that you play at your best? I suppose this also leads maybe a little bit into, like, how do you stay encouraged, after a bad performance? How do you stay on the horse? Someone had raised that question. And I think, number one, remember that everyone has a bad performance. Everyone, absolutely. Like I've sat and watched Stephen Isserlis teach when I lived in London for the year studying, and he just played so phenomenally, and even demonstrating in masterclass. And then there came a day, a recital I went to of his, and I was like, oh, Stephen Isserlis had a bad, oh my goodness, bless him. That is just great. But what an incredible hero, incredible cellist. I also have experienced this in school. One of the pieces, a piece that I think makes every cellist think about quitting, is the Haydn D major concerto. It is so exposed and so difficult to do elegantly. And I remember a performance at Bowdoin one summer where that really didn't go well. And I really thought, maybe this isn't for me. But you know what? That specific piece, I have now heard at least a handful of cellists that were the hotshot cellists of the school, either school or the camp that I was going to, just completely fall on their faces as well. So this is what happens. This is what we do. We go out there, we put ourselves out there, and these things are going to happen because we're not machines. And you know what? It's okay. So I have the advantage of all this hindsight. you couldn't have, you couldn't have exactly consoled me the night I played the hide and thought, maybe this isn't for me. You could, but now I'm qualified to say, having lived through that and seen other people live through their horrible days, that it will be okay, and so that's how I get over bad performances. I do try to use those performances though and figure out, okay, how do I get better from here? And the organized method that I suggested with recording, logging the performances, having a list of, breaking down your practice also. Like, for example, for an orchestral audition, you typically have maybe 15 excerpts, if you count maybe give or take. So if you break that down into even just 20 minutes an excerpt, that's not such good news, is it? Because that's 5 hours. But so organization is key. Getting to everything, I think every day actually is pretty key. The proof is recording, pushing the recording button at a given time. Don't do it when you're feeling good. Push it when you're not feeling good and play. That's how you are going to feel on stage. And that was the other thing about the auditions, not just accepting, but expecting that you're going to feel uncomfortable. And how do you get through that?